What's up, everybody, and welcome to ITG Daily, the show that brings you the hottest in gaming news. I'm Drew Bosley. That's the one, the only, Scott Savage. Scott, what's going on, man?
Oh, checking out some of the Steam Fest demos today. There's a whole lot more than you can shake a stick at.
Oh, man, did Steam ever get loaded up lately? Now there's just one demo after another. We've got a few of them coming up on ITG, so make sure you stick around. We've got a lot to talk about, man. There's some pretty cool demos. Definitely things you want to be paying attention to. I know I'm having a good time with what I'm playing. I can't wait to talk about it, which will be soon, very soon. But people can join us live each and every day, usually over at twitch.tv/theofficialITG, as well as youtube.com/InsideTheGameOfficial. But if you can't join us live, hit us up later. InsideTheGame.ca podcast services, thanks to our friends over at Fired Up Network. And of course, those beautiful TV streaming networks around the globe. There are so many with ESTV, Amazon Prime, Roku, and so many more. So make sure you find us. You can find us everywhere. And don't forget to hit us up over on Twitter at @theofficialITG and let us know what you're playing. But Scott, let's get into today's show, because we're talking about Call of Duty's Battle Royale Warzone is about to get shut down. That's right, they're going to be closing those servers. Sony won't give Activision details on the PlayStation 6 if they get purchased by Microsoft, and Square Enix says they're open to a Final Fantasy FPS. Man, okay.
Interesting.
I don't know, man. Come off of Final Fantasy 16. I don't know why we want to do that, because what a game that was. Yeah, but
15 makes a little more sense, but in any case, we'll get there.
we will get there. There's a lot to talk about today, so let's get rolling. Activision is shutting down the original Call of Duty Warzone. Andy Robinson over at VGC. As of September 21st, 2023, Call of Duty's Warzone will shut down. Quote, as our team focus on future Call of Duty content, including the Warzone free-to-play experience, end quote, according to Activision. Scott, what are your thoughts on this? Are you surprised to see this getting shut down at all?
No, not particularly. Actually, in this case, I'm surprised it had not been shut down earlier, actually.
Yeah.
I had actually thought it was gone, so I didn't really go look for it, but...
Fair enough. Yeah, the original version released back in 2020. So here we are 3 years later, Scott. We're now into Warzone 2.0, which
really
is...
only 2020. That's puzzling to me. Holy.
Yep. For 3 years, though. That flies by in a
Time flies by.
It certainly does. But here we are into 2.0. We're in the next iteration, which just launched last November. The original Warzone was codenamed How are they pronouncing that, Scott?
Caldera.
That's it. This is a Corey game, dude. That's the biggest thing. You and I jumped into, with our good friend Kyle, into the world of Modern Warfare's Call of Duty Warzone 2.0, and been kind of going strong with that with DMZ mode, and then it fallen off as of late. But there's just so many games, man. But I know a lot of people are still diving in heavy. But the fact that they're shutting down 3 years later, with the fact that there is another Warzone already out, Warzone 2.0 is here, which is no big surprise, right? Call of Duty pushes year in, year out. We're going to get another Call of Duty in 2024, if not 2023 this year as well, come the holiday season. It's kind of when they launch it every year. So we'll see what happens. But Scott, 3 years, Warzone took on the Battle Royale genre and quickly climbed to one of the top Battle Royale games around.
Oh, yes, if not the top, depending on who you ask. This might have actually been the top, but Warzone 1 into Warzone 2, I think 2 is just not quite received the same way. I'm not sure if it's balancing issues. I haven't been in there myself, not in quite some time.
Right.
But it seems to not have the same popularity that number 1 had. So it is a little bit sad to see it sunset, because that option was there for players. And I wish I had known.
Will you go back then? Well, I guess you can't now because we're past that date. But it's funny. Would you have gone back, because it was such a fan favorite at the time? But yeah, here we are into this next one, which we just can't seem to really stick around to. Why would they shut down, Scott, something that was so beloved? And what went wrong getting into the part 2? Wouldn't we get into Warzone 2.0?
Yeah, with 2.0, I think there was an attempt to try and just change things, just make it different from number 1. And I think that's the majority of the complaints people have. Number 1 was just, for some reason, stood so well on its own, and I'm not really sure what made that proper. I look back at it with nostalgia vision now. Man, and I'm not sure why I can't quite grasp that with the second game. Yeah, nostalgia for 3 years ago. I have nostalgia for last week, though.
Yeah, it is. Call of Duty is such a juggernaut of a game, right? And they just keep pushing forward. Are we now then waiting as the fan base is holding out for maybe another iteration on Warzone? They keep updating it, right? Another season brings in new game modes, new tweaks, twists, weapons, things along that line. Of course, another battle pass. But is that enough? Now pushing forward, we talk about games as a service being such a struggle all the time. If the second one, if the next iteration on Warzone 2.0 doesn't hit, is it time just to get ready for Warzone 3.0?
That's quite possible. Yeah, I'm sure they will follow it up with some sort of successor, but it becomes a matter of time, which makes sense. It all is a matter of time. We're talking about a free to play title as well.
Yeah.
So it makes sense. You don't want to split the team, keeping number one alive and sacrificing what number three could be. It does make a lot of sense to kind of shut it down. But I'm wondering, yeah, when is that next jump to Warzone 3? Could it be 3 years after the debut of Warzone 2? Is that a sensical lifetime, or will we rush given the kind of fall off of numbers we're seeing?
Well, that's just it, right? The live service is always kind of captivated by whatever is next, new and shiny. And if they can captivate that on Warzone 3.0, maybe now is the time to change it over. But I'm sure the audience is there. It's big enough still for 2.0. I see Corey still there. Mind you, I've seen him taken away, though, for Diablo 4, Scott. Right? With so many games, dude, wait till September comes around. Right? We talk about it all the time here on the show about how many games are launching just in the month of September and then leading into October. Is that the time that are we starting to see the fatigue of Call of Duty?
Oh, possible. Yeah. Well, there was a real push to take Call of Duty away from the yearly launch for that same reason. And I don't think that was done to success. So I think the fan base is feeling that Call of Duty fatigue still.
Maybe this is the time to take that break.
Well, this next release will no doubt inspire a new theme, a new event, a new season for Call of Duty Warzone. So I'm wondering if that'll be enough to rejuvenate, kind of spike everybody's interest. But looking back for myself, I've never really been Call of Duty Warzone Vanguard comes out and changes Warzone, and I just haven't been interested enough to really go back and check.
Yeah, no, it's just man, Call of Duty just keeps coming around year after year, and people are just starting to get tired. Right? We did that with Assassin's Creed, became on this yearly life cycle of a new game, and fans were just burnt out. And I wonder if we're finally starting to see this with Call of Duty. But yet, the success of Modern Warfare 2's launch seems to think otherwise, right? Because we hit almost $1 billion in 3 days. So,
oh yes, they sell.
So they're like, no, we're not taking a year off. We're going to give you more Call of Duty. So I'm sure to expect whatever's next. Modern Warfare 3 is what we've heard rumblings of right now, launching this holiday season.
I'm really worried that it will in the quest to try and change up Call of Duty. What do you do to make it new and exciting to reverse that fatigue? And I'm so worried it's going to become wall running, double jumps, things that I've seen in Titanfall that don't do well. I don't want them in Call of Duty regardless.
We saw some of that come to Call of Duty though a while ago.
That was
right?
Black Ops 3, I believe, was the one with some running, some wall jumps and stuff like that. And it worked, but it was cheesy online.
That's fair enough. Dude, let's get into Sony says it won't give Activision PlayStation 6 information if Microsoft acquires them. Tom Henderson over at Insider Gaming. Sony has said that the company will not provide Activision with PlayStation 6 information if Microsoft acquires the publisher. The information comes via the FTC versus Microsoft. Oh man, like this debate, this back and forth is becoming very, very exhausting. And I know a lot of us, including us here over at Inside the Game, are looking forward to the day that we don't no longer talk about this. It's either happened or it's not, but it's going to continue on. But what we find is more and more information coming out because they got to basically just put everything on the line here. But either way, the PlayStation chief, Jim Ryan, making the said comment on the matter, posted on Twitter via Stephen Totillo. Ryan said, quote, "We simply could not run the risk of a company that was owned by a direct competitor having access to the PlayStation 6 information," end quote. Ryan continues to explain that he believes Activision's primary incentive post-acquisition would be to optimize its overall Xbox business and not the business of Activision. The overall disposition is essentially Ryan saying that Activision would not be fully utilizing all the PlayStation 6 features if the company was acquired. In addition, Sony would not provide details on features and development kits of the PlayStation 6 to Activision because of the highly sensitive nature of the console. All the information comes following the FTC's recommendation of blocking the Microsoft Activision acquisition. It's a mouthful.
There's a word salad.
Both Microsoft and Activision have said that they plan on appealing the ruling. Insider Gaming understands that the PlayStation 6 is not scheduled to release until at least 2028, Scott. So we still have 5 more years on the PlayStation 5? That's...
Oh, I think that would match the typical kind of 7-year life cycle in and around there. 7, I suppose 8 years in this case.
Well, then there's more coming out of Stephen Totillo via Twitter, saying the FTC lawyer questioning Bethesda's Pete Hines confirms that Disney had a deal for an Indiana Jones game. Oh boy, that'd be for multiple consoles. Hines confirms FTC says the deal was amended post-acquisition to be Xbox only for consoles. Scott, this is what Jim Ryan is worried about right then and there.
Yeah, this is putting a huge hole in Xbox's kind of counter defense there.
Yeah.
Well, we'll make a deal with you. We'll make a deal with everybody. Everybody gets Call of Duty. But as we see, there is history. There is precedent of those deals changing after the fact. And I see that as very dirty business, if that were the case.
Well, it sounds like this was the case with Disney, right? And all of a sudden now we are getting an Indiana Jones game, but it's not on PlayStation. It's now exclusive, right? We get Starfield exclusive. Probably the next Skyrim game coming out of Bethesda will be exclusive, right? You spend
certainly will.
What'd they spend? $7 billion buying Bethesda?
I think it was, just under $7 billion, I think. And that makes sense. You do want to hold those IPs. That's what that money moves for.
Absolutely. So wouldn't you do the same thing when it comes to Activision? But Activision's Call of Duty franchise makes an absolute ton of money. Wouldn't you want to put it on PlayStation at the same time? There is that too, right? You'd be cutting off the hand that feeds you in a sense.
Oh, that's what boggles the mind is really the kind of position. Well, we won't share our cutting edge technology with Activision. And it's a self-fulfilling prophecy now. Because you do this, Xbox will have the superior form of the game. And that is supposed to be what the whole idea was to avoid.
Absolutely.
I don't understand that strategy.
But when you get into PlayStation's exclusives, right? Like we're getting Spider-Man 2 this holiday season. We're going to get into that haptic feedback feature within the DualSense controller. It's very exciting, man. That controller this is the controller that Xbox now needs to catch up to. Like it's that simple, right? They are behind the times when it comes to Xbox. So Jim Ryan wanted to hold some of these secrets to themselves because if they give that to Activision may just kind of slide underneath the door to Phil, not likely to Phil Spencer, but you know what I mean? Like they're just going to slide some information under the Xbox hood to go, hey, here's for our next Xbox. This is what some of the features that they're going to have now on the PlayStation 6, whenever in 2028 when that's coming around. Man, 5 years from now. Interesting to see. Oh boy.
What do you think the Xbox is going to be called that competes with the PlayStation 6?
I'm so terrified of what they're going to call the next Xbox. Like, PlayStation's done it right, man, and you may make fun of them for calling it 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, but at least we know what generation we're in. Xbox is just a whole mumbo-jumbo of, okay, where is this and what console? Xbox Series X, Xbox One, Xbox One X, Xbox Series S. Like, what happened here?
Is it going to be the 2X, the double X, XL? I don't know where it's going to go from. Model T?
I don't. Yeah, who knows? But I did find that piece of information very interesting that Jim Ryan's like, no, we're not going to give Activision anything if they get purchased by Microsoft, which is frustrating for PlayStation fans. Like at the end of the day, Jim Ryan seems to be very focused business only and not the community of gamers. And I've said this before in the past. It's just one of those things. The guy's all business, but he's steering PlayStation in the business direction that keeps them at the top. You can't complain where they're at because we're getting some of the best games we've ever experienced out of PlayStation right now, hands down. Now, not just on Jim Ryan, right? But the biggest part for us is that we don't have that Phil Spencer-esque personality when it comes to Xbox over on PlayStation. We have Jim Ryan, and that doesn't hit well when it comes to the community, right? They don't have the Shuhei Yoshida that we used to have in the past. Things changed. So
I'm not predominantly a PlayStation fan, but I would be very interested to get that kind of information, that opinion. I want to hear what the PlayStation fan base has to say about Jim Ryan. I don't quite expect it to be favorable, but I'm very curious.
I'm also curious about Square Enix are open to Final Fantasy first-person shooters, Scott. Mark over comicbook.com says this: since the series began, Final Fantasy has embraced change, offering distinct adventures that can often vary significantly from previous games. That's fair to say. We've seen a whole vast library of expansive opportunities here when it comes to the Final Fantasy franchises, dipping our toes into different genres in a sense. We even had a battle royale coming to Final Fantasy, Scott. Did you ever think that day would come? It's now shut down.
No, that was a strange one. I'm not sure if it lasted very long or if it was very popular, but very curious.
Yeah, it did not last very long at all. The openness to change has been a hallmark of the series and has led to some of the games that are considered to be the best in the series. Final Fantasy will likely always have elements that will keep the games connected, like chocobos. Dude, you can't. It's not a Final Fantasy game if you don't have chocobos. You know what I mean?
Tomberries.
So we'll see what happens here, but the type of change might go too far for longtime fans that are already concerned with Final Fantasy 16 might already do just that. Final Fantasy 16, here's the thing. I've heard a couple different stances, right? Final Fantasy 16 is an open opportunity for those who've always wanted to get into the franchise that have never been able to because of the combat system, right? The combat system has been very catered to the turn-based. You play in your moves, you sit, you wait. Sometimes they strike, sometimes they miss, and then vice versa. And then the enemy attacks, sometimes it doesn't attack, sometimes it misses, this, that, and the other. Here and now we're getting into real-time combat, and this is what drew me in to the experience for I almost said Mortal Kombat for some reason, Final Fantasy 16, because it is more modernized, right? And then I think that's where they're trying to open up the opportunity for more gamers to have access to Final Fantasy. But do you think going with a first-person shooter is just a little too much for Final Fantasy?
Yeah, personally, I think first person is a mistake to do. If you got into it, there's a few precedents that already exist. And Dirge of Cerberus, I believe, was Final Fantasy VII. And that was a third person shooter, from what I understand. And although I haven't played it myself, I've heard it's quite successful. And a lot of the Final Fantasy fans respect it. But I have a slight memory from Final Fantasy 15, where I thought there was a VR. And if anybody has more information, please. I thought there was a VR mode where you could accompany your party, but you had a little gun in your hand, and you're just doing little tiny damage to the enemy as you're running around in VR. And that's super strange to me. I'm not sure if it was fully implemented, and I don't suspect that it was very inspiring of a brand new game. I can't imagine that sitting well with the fan base.
This is all stemmed from an interview over on Bloomberg where they said they're open to a first-person shooter entry like the Call of Duty franchise someday.
Oh.
Dude, that is...
that is bizarre.
That is just... Oh, boy. Yeah, that does not come off as a Final Fantasy game then, right? If you're going to do that, this is where you need to branch off completely. Don't use the IP as Final Fantasy. Just create a whole other game. I think that's where we kind of walk into troubled waters often. They'll take... Dude, Metal Gear Survive is a prime example of this, right? We're going to take what everybody loves and call it Metal Gear. And then once you hear Metal Gear, you're like, oh, your ears pick up. You go, okay, what is this? And then we get into Survive. And then that just did not pan out. And I'm very nervous moving forward then for Final Fantasy. If we don't get Final Fantasy 17 and we get Final Fantasy Call of Duty, dude, that's just not what people are going to want at all. Curious.
I can't foresee that. I don't think the fan base wants a 15 too either, but we'll see that before we see a first-person shooter.
Yeah. What I want to see though, Scott, is Microsoft thinks that Sony's Project Q will be the price of under $300. I like it. This is a funny
suspect that's American. First
yes.
of all.
Absolutely. This is Tom Henderson over at Gaming Insider. Insider Gaming once again. A new finding from the ongoing FTC. Here it is back once again. Disposition has revealed that Microsoft believes Sony's Project Q price will be less than $300. The finding comes via Stephen Datillo, who's absolutely on fire when it comes to covering all this, who's been doing a brilliant job covering all the information surrounding Microsoft's proposed acquisition of Activision Blizzard King. The finding says, quote, Sony is also anticipated to release a handheld version of PlayStation 5 later this year under $300, end quote. First of all, this is not a handheld version of the PS5. Let's stop that right there. That is wrong. That is a misstatement. It is a streaming device, similar to what you would kind of consider the Logitech G Cloud. That's where I would go. If you haven't seen the Logitech G Cloud handheld system, here, I've got one.
Right here.
I got one right here. Yo, I'm on it right now all the time. I'm playing some Steam games. I'm tapped in, and I'm just literally streaming. It's just a streaming platform. That's all it is. There is no download capabilities. Project Q is the same thing. Project Q is PlayStation's handheld streaming system. Kind of how we would stream games when we had the Stadia, rest in peace, back in the day, where you would just tap into your library, right? Here you tap on your phone for Stadia, beam it to your TV, grab a controller, away you go. PlayStation's Project Q, from what I understand, is basically, it is literally a DualSense controller, cut in half, and tossed in like a iPad screen, about an 8-inch screen, and then it connected on the end, and then that is it. But that streams to your PlayStation 5, allowing you to tap in while maybe somebody else is watching TV, playing Xbox, whatever they're doing that's occupying your TV, that you can't play your PS5. But then you can, because you can do it on this handheld. It is not the PS5 in your hand, right? You're not downloading God of War to it.
I can't have only the Project Q and expect to play PlayStation games. I'm going to have a PlayStation console as well.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's not the Vita 2.0. Where is that, by the way? Where is our next Vita, Scott?
Yeah, that would be very welcome as well.
Oh, man, fans would love that. I know I would love it. But yeah, Project Q, I'm definitely interested in. I want to see how well it works. I would love that, because at night, right now, I often play, I'm playing Zelda. Or as of right now, because we're into so many of these Steam games, I'm using my Logitech G Cloud system in bed last night, playing what we're reviewing for next week. So it's one of those things, right? It allows me to tap in and get coverage and still stream, but I'm not actually in that like downloading, kind of like, it's not like a Steam Deck, right, where you actually download to the platform. So, but yeah,
coming in at 300 or under 300, it makes it quite attractive still.
It does. I don't think it's overpriced. It might be just maybe like you're not going to get this thing for $100. Unfortunately, as nice as that would be, but then you'd have nothing.
You would see it. Yeah. No, it would feel like $100 item.
Yeah, no, I'm very excited. I know this isn't going to be for everybody, right? Not everybody needs to tap into this to have it, because my kids are on my PlayStation, they're on my systems, they're on my TV. So if they're not playing PlayStation 5, they're on the Xbox. Then this allows me to continue on with more Final Fantasy 16 and can keep going or keep playing or whatever I'm working on at the time we're playing, right? So it allows me to kind of take it around the house. Dude, the highlight for me is sitting in bed and just gaming and winding down for the night after coming off of like Siege or GTA or something.
Oh, that's the best part, for sure.
Yeah.
And it's a little more economical than having 3 TVs in your living room.
Yeah,
which I've done.
Yeah. Yo,
I'm sure. I think you may have witnessed that, actually.
Yes, I have.
Way too many TVs.
No, it has been, it's interesting to follow along, but a lot of information coming out of the FTC, as everybody's starting to open up and kind of give their thoughts and opinions, and then inside information on things we wouldn't normally get information on. I think that's the other side of it too, right? And Steven Totillo, give the man credit for he's busting it over there to come out with some of this information. I've been following a lot of him lately over the last few days, just seeing one post after another. And some of the things, man, oh man, I'm very curious to see if this will actually go through. But yeah, getting back to the Project Q, let us know. Are you getting one? Hit us up over on Twitter, the official ITG. Definitely curious if this is of interest to you, or you're like, nah, that's a hard pass for me. So I don't know. We'll see what happens, Scott.
For myself, I want an Xbox version of it.
Right? Yeah. Yo, I'm telling you, you get the Logitech G Cloud. You can tap into your Xbox. It's there. It doesn't have the functionality for PlayStation.
Don't want to turn this into a commercial, but that does seem to be a good opportunity for me.
Yeah, there is opportunities here for sure. Scott, we do have one game out today. What do we have?
We have Sonic Origins Plus, and that's on PlayStation 4, 5, Xbox One, XS, the Nintendo Switch, and PC.
Are you going to check that one out at all?
I'm really curious for Sonic. I love Sonic Mania, but I feel like that was too many years ago now. I don't know if we'll get another experience like that.
Sonic Mania 2, I think, needs to happen. I think fans are asking for it, and it's only a matter of time before it does come around. Frontiers. I still have to check out Frontiers. I never got into that. I wasn't able to get into it at the time, just on too many other projects. But I'm looking forward. It's been so long since I played a Sonic game. So...
And a good one.
Well, yeah, I know. I've heard mixed things on Frontiers. Like, some people love it or some people hate it. It's kind of, you're all over the place. Dude, I love a divisive title. Right? Like, I like it. I like how this scales all over. You just need to figure it out for yourself. But what you can figure out is us when we're back on Monday. Thanks, everybody. This is The Weekend. And until then, I'm Drew. That's Scott. We'll see you inside the game.